What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. J. Cam with Equalized Outdoors, and welcome back to another episode of Mastering with Equalized Outdoors. It's been a minute since we've done one of these, but this is our teaching series. So today we're going to do a little talking about map reading. Now, for me personally, I learned land navigation and map reading in the Army. So for a long time, I honestly didn't think much about it. It was just one of those skills that I already had in the toolbox. But the more time I spend around hunting, the outdoors, and other avenues, the more I realize a lot of folks getting into this space are adult onset hunters. They did not grow up doing this stuff, which means they weren't taught how to read terrain, how to use maps, or how to navigate in the woods beyond following basically a line on their phone. And honestly, I think a lot of beginner context misses the mark because it still isn't base level enough. People explain things assuming you already understand the fundamentals, which is often not the case. So that's what we're doing today. This is map reading at the beginner level. Let's call it Topo 101. This will not make you an expert overnight, but it will help you start to understand what you're actually looking at when you open a topo map. Before we even get into terrain features, let's talk about what you actually need. Years ago, not long ago actually, this was mostly done with paper maps and a compass and a protractor, and those skills still matter. In fact, towards the end of this video, we'll talk about why having a backup plan is still important. But today, the easiest way to get started is honestly through digital mapping platforms. Apps like onX Hunt, onX Backcountry, Jaya GPS, or HuntStand give people access to topo maps, satellite imagery, property boundaries, offline maps, waypoints, and a lot more right from their phone. And not all of those are hunting specific either. Some are geared toward hiking, backpacking, overlanding, and general outdoor navigation too. The important thing is this: these tools make learning terrain far more approachable than it used to be. You don't have to become a land navigation expert overnight. You just need to start learning how terrain works. So, what exactly is a topo map? A topo map, or topographic map, is a map designed to show the shape and elevation of the land. Instead of just roads or property lines, topo maps help you visualize the terrain itself. Visualize the hills, the valleys, the ridges, the steep ground, the flat ground, etc. And the main way that is shown is through contour lines. Every contour line on the map represents lines of elevation. So one thing that's important to understand early is contour line spacing. When contour lines, which are the lines that are on the map, the squigglies and the shapes that you see, the solid line is the contour line. When they are spread apart, that usually means that the terrain is flatter and easier to move through. When the contour lines are stacked tightly together, the terrain gets steeper. And when those same lines are extremely tight or almost touching, you may be looking at a bluff, cliff, or very drastic elevation change. Another thing that beginners should absolutely do is read the legend. Most people skip it, but the legend tells you what the symbols mean, what the contour intervals are, the roads, water, boundaries, and other information that the map is actually giving you and what it looks like. Because if you don't understand the language of the map, none of the rest of this is going to make any sense. Now, let's talk terrain features. Traditionally, there are 5 major terrain features and there are 3 minor terrain features. The 5 major terrain features are hills, valleys, ridges, saddles, and depressions. The 3 minor terrain features are draws, spurs, and cliffs. Now, I'm going to show examples of these on screen, but let's simplify what each of these actually means. A hill is exactly what it sounds like. Elevated ground on a topo map, and hills usually appear as closed circles or loops. A valley is lower ground that usually has water flowing through it, but it doesn't have to. Valleys often create natural travel corridors for both animals and people. A ridge is elevated ground that runs out from a high point. Think of the spine of a mountain or a hill system. So it's essentially several hills that run in a row. A saddle is low ground between 2 higher points. And this one is important for hunters, especially because animals often use saddles as natural crossing points. Instead of burning energy going directly up steep terrains, they naturally move through the easier to access lower point. A depression is low ground surrounded by higher terrain, and on a map, these are often shown with tick marks pointing inwards on a closed circle. Then you have the minor terrain features. Draws are small valleys, spurs are fingers of elevated ground that extend off a ridge that you may hear referred to as a finger ridge, and cliffs are exactly what they sound like. Extremely steep terrain, abrupt elevation changes that usually have a drop off shown by contour lines packed very, very, very tightly together. Now, let's tie this into hunting without overcomplicating things. Animals move through terrain a lot like we do. Most of the time, they will take the path of least resistance. They also desire security, so that means they often use terrain to stay concealed, conserve energy, avoid exposure, and move efficiently. That's why terrain matters so much. Saddles become natural pinch points, benches can become travel corridors, and even bedding areas. Ridges can help animals move while maintaining visibility and security. Valleys often provide water and cover, and elevation can help us as hunters too. A lot of times we use hills or high ground to glass because the elevation gives us visibility into larger sections of terrain without having to physically cover every inch of it. The important thing is not memorizing every terrain feature overnight, but it's important to understand how terrain influences movement. That's the real key. The next time you go scouting, slow down and try matching the map to what you're seeing in front of you. Look at the terrain on your app or GPS and compare it to the real landscape. Find a ridge, find a saddle, find a valley, find some steep ground. That is where the learning happens. And again, you have to understand that this is a skill set. Nobody masters map reading overnight. It comes with time and repetition, just like anything else in life or the outdoors in general. And before we get out of here, I want to say one final thing. Always have a backup plan. Phones die, batteries fail, signal disappears. Technology is a tool, not a replacement for understanding where you are. If you guys want, maybe we can do a part 2 in the future where we go deeper into manual map reading, compasses, and a more advanced navigation. But for now, hopefully this gives you a solid foundation to start understanding terrain and reading maps with confidence. I appreciate you for watching. This has been another episode of Mastering with Equalized Outdoors, and I'll catch you on the next one.